Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name is Matt Colville. This is the last video in the politics series. We're talking about how to make your story more sophisticated, give it more depth politically. And in order to do that, we need to think politically. And Black Panther is a brilliant, clear, strong blueprint for this kind of thought. Watch this video and then, with these ideas running around in your head, go watch the movie again, and I think it will change, or at least inform, how you think of executive power. Black Panther comes out in 2018 and receives a lot of praise, deservedly so, but something I didn't see anyone talking about was how clearly it shows us where executive power comes from. What is its source? This is absolutely one of the things Black Panther is about. It's one of the major tensions of the film, but I never really saw anybody bring it up. And it's very useful to us as storytellers because even though it is set in the Marvel Universe, which is a science fictional version of our modern world, Wakanda is ruled by a king. There's no parliament, no democracy. It's a lot like a kingdom in a generic D&D world. So we can learn a lot about how our own medieval campaign setting works. We can learn the complex reality underpinning the surface politics by watching this movie. Our fictional world becomes more sophisticated if we learn from Black Panther. Why is T'Challa king? Well, if you asked me when I was maybe 9, I would have said because he's the oldest son of the king. And this is a fine answer for most D&D games. But if you want to run a politically sophisticated game, if you want to run the kind of game I enjoy running, then I think it is helpful to think a little more deeply about this. It's okay if your players don't think more deeply about it. If your campaign becomes about this stuff, then your players will get caught up in it. So he was the prince, he was the eldest son of the king died, and so now he is king. This is the self-evident, at face value answer. But that is not why he is king. There's a moment in the movie where the prince has to defend his title in ritual combat. He has to prove that he is their greatest warrior in order to hold on to his title. And in my opinion, this is the hallmark of a chaotic society. I don't mean chaotic as in random. I mean in the sense of the alignment chart. A chaotic society is one where the strong rule. In a lawful society, the laws, the rules say, well, this person got the most votes or the most electors or whatever. The rules say they are in charge, therefore we're all going to act like they're in charge. Even if we all know this person to be an unqualified boob, the rules say they're in charge, so we will pretend like they're in charge, and therefore they are in charge. That is a sign of a lawful society. We follow rules first, people second. Wakandans are like the Fremen in Dune, a chaotic society where only strength matters. It is impossible under this tradition for an incompetent person to become leader, because the only virtue they're interested in is strength. Might makes right. Might determines who is our leader. Sorta. Stay tuned. There's a moment in Dune where everyone knows Paul is the best fighter in the tribe. He's the best fighter any of them have ever seen, and he's probably the best fighter in the galaxy. Count Hasimir Fenring accepted, of course. And all the Fremen know this. So they're all sitting around trying to figure out why Paul hasn't taken over yet. Why hasn't he challenged Stilgar, the current leader, killed him, and taken over? This is what everyone expects. But Paul likes Stilgar, and furthermore, Stilgar was the best warrior until Paul came along, which means now he's the second best warrior. And why should we kill that dude? Just to prove what everyone already knows, that Paul is better? Paul has to walk a fine line and basically convince the Fremen that this is maybe a short-sighted way to do things. This is not easy to do. Changing the culture is not easy. In Fremen society, the best warrior is leader, and you prove that by killing the previous leader in ritual combat. These are people who have to fight to survive. So what other possible metric could you use? If anyone but our best warrior is in charge, we could all die. T'Challa also has to prove he's the best fighter, and this tells us a lot about Wakandan society. And it also helps set up some pretty important drama later. So this is the second layer of complexity. First, face value layer, T'Challa is king because he's the son of the king and his father died. Second layer, a little deeper down, he's the king because he's the greatest warrior. But this is also not why he's king. And if we pay attention, the movie shows us where executive power comes from, and it does a really good job of it. It builds an entire argument over the course of the movie so that, without anyone ever talking about it, we all see it happen and believe it. It does such a good job, I'm making a video saying we should all be ripping it off. In fact, I think this might be the point of the movie. There's a subtext, which is that it's hard for a good man to be king. I love it when movies just come out and say what they're about, so I love that moment. If a movie is good, then it leads us all the way up to this point, and we instinctively understand the issue, but maybe we can't put it into words. So the movie does it for us. And if everything is working, if the movie has done a good job leading us there, then when we get the thesis statement, when someone finally just comes out and says what the movie is about, we are deeply satisfied. Yes, this is what it's about. This is true. This is real. That's good storytelling. Anyway, there is the subtext, but I think the movie is actually trying to teach us why the people in charge are in charge. So first, the movie teaches us how things normally work. The king dies, the prince has to prove he's the best warrior. But this seems like mostly a formality. No one seriously expects anyone to challenge the prince. Notice in this scene, it's all ritual. These characters all know what's expected of them, and they're all doing their part. We can see the leaders of the tribes all gathered, and lots of other people are here. It's all done out in the open, under the open sky. Everyone needs to see that the traditions have been followed. The people, in other words, need to see not that T'Challa is the strongest warrior, but that their own leaders accept his authority. And no one says this, but they are showing it to us. This is foreshadowing. The people don't look to T'Challa, they look to the leaders of their own tribes. The tribal leaders grant that T'Challa is king, and now T'Challa is king. But we don't want the audience to think this is all purely ceremonial. That would not be dramatic. Remember, it's the writer's job, and the dungeon master's, to create drama. So we have to show people this is real. Like the Fremen, if you're a good enough warrior, you can be king. So let's meet M'Baku. If we are savvy moviegoers, we know this isn't the bad guy. This is a good guy who just disagrees with T'Challa. We've already met the bad guy, so we love M'Baku because of the everything of him. But because he and T'Challa disagree on the best way to run the kingdom, they are at odds, and we cannot wait for them to team up and be on the same side. That's good storytelling. So, of course, they fight. We know they're going to fight before we even see this dude. There's quite a lot of foreshadowing in this battle, and we know it, right? There's not a waterfall here by accident. But the thing I like is how T'Challa gets M'Baku to yield. First, he beats M'Baku. Then he says, yield, and M'Baku says, I would rather die. That is good writing. These are the stakes. Ghost Dog told us the stakes, but M'Baku is letting us know he believes it. He would rather die than yield. Of course, he has to say that, otherwise there's no tension. Remember, drama is tension and resolution. So he refuses to yield, and T'Challa says, don't make me kill you. That doesn't do anything. The dude has already said he would rather die. So T'Challa says, your people need you. Again, this movie is about the relationship between the people and executive power. How do we show that M'Baku is a good leader? We show him the one thing that is more important than his pride, or his desire to be king, or even his sense that he is right and Wakanda is badly led. There is something more important to M'Baku than all of this, and it is the well-being of his people. Your people need you is the magic word that unlocks the end of the scene and shows us what is really important to M'Baku. That's good storytelling. So then, movie happens, and it's kind of standard Marvel plotting about MacGuffins and betrayals and reversals. Nothing wrong with that. But eventually, Killmonger, who is the bad guy, maybe the best bad guy in a Marvel movie, just a brilliant, brilliant character played to the hilt by Michael B. Jordan. Eventually, Killmonger is done collecting all the plot coupons, and he arrives in the Wakandan throne room to redeem them. Killmonger wants to be king. He's the son of the king's brother, so there's this great duality where he actually has just as much right to the throne as T'Challa. He is following tradition. He's not just a warlord come to take the throne by force. If he were, I would be wrong about what this movie is about. But this movie is about the origins of executive power. And in order for there to be real drama here, we need to believe Killmonger is not only a scheming evil villain, he is also a better fighter than T'Challa and has a legitimate claim to the throne. One of the reasons I think he's the best Marvel villain, possibly in a tie with the Vulture, is that he's right. Like the stuff he says, we agree with. That's a good bad guy. He's not wrong. He's just evil. In other words, the movie does not let us off the hook. If he weren't obeying all the forms, it would be easy for us to dismiss him. But the movie did the hard work of showing us all the rules of the game of Wakandan succession, and Killmonger shows up with all the aces. He presents them to the 5 people in the throne room, and something we do not ask, but we should, is why are these people here? They're here to show us where power comes from. If T'Challa were an absolute monarch, he could just say, "Begone, monger of kills," and that would be the end of it. But there has never been and can never be a monarch with that kind of power. The people in the throne room are not just the heads of the different Wakandan tribes, they are also the heads of the Wakandan government. Like W'Kabi. He's not just the head of the Blue Outfit tribe, he's also the head of the army, which is awesome for us as GMs and storytellers. The writer, who is also the director, Ryan Coogler, has just done an enormous amount of work setting all of this up. These people are not only the hereditary rulers of the tribes and the keepers of traditions, they are also the different branches of the government. So what someone like W'Kabi thinks about all of this is super important. If T'Challa had absolute power, wouldn't matter what this dude thinks. But no leader has that kind of power, no matter what you might think. The movie foreshadowed all of this when T'Challa told W'Kabi that Klaue slipped through his fingers. We see W'Kabi is disgusted, disappointed. Your father did nothing. With you, I thought it would be different. But it's more of the same. Someone like W'Kabi isn't really worried about ethics. He's interested in action. I don't care why Klaue escaped, only that he escaped. I don't care what we use our army for, only that we use it. So if you're not going to lead us in a manner that produces action, war, I will back someone who will. Again, he never gives any indication that he cares who is in charge, only that he gets to use his army. This is normal. This is typical. There's a moment during the challenge between Killmonger and T'Challa where Killmonger has won. And by the way, even in victory is still making his case. He doesn't just win. In other words, he continues arguing. He is a persuasive leader. His argument is well thought out, and he does not stop making his case. He says, "Is this your king? The one who's supposed to lead you, protect you?" Why is he talking? If beating T'Challa in ritual combat means he is king, why bother with the blah blah? Because Killmonger knows where executive power comes from. In this confrontation, there are no normal citizens, only the heads of the tribes. He needs them to agree with him. So there's this moment where a member of the Royal Guard looks to their captain and says, "Is there nothing that can be done?" And this is so important. God, Ryan Coogler is such a good writer. He's not just a good writer, he is a good architect of story, because this person is basically saying what Wakanda would say if Wakanda were a character. Hey, we like that guy who just got stabbed, and we think this new dude might be a total sociopath. Does it matter that he's right? Does it matter that he's obeyed all the forms? Do we have to put up with him? In other words, couldn't we just decide not to? So the camera pans around to Okoye, the leader of the Royal Guard. She's conflicted, but just like we know W'Kabi's motivation, I would like to use this nice army we have, Okoye is motivated by duty. The forms of Canly have been obeyed, so according to Okoye's worldview, no, there is nothing that can be done. The movie has shown us where executive power comes from. If W'Kabi cared about the character of the king, Killmonger wouldn't have stood a chance. He would have never made it past the first post. If Okoye cared about the character of the king, well, it wouldn't matter that Killmonger won the challenge. The Royal Guard would cut him down. If either of these characters were differently motivated, none of this other stuff would matter. The challenge, his ancestry, Killmonger would never be king. And in case there's any doubt, the movie is going to show us. Of course, Killmonger doesn't kill T'Challa. That would be the end of the movie. He knows he's a character in a Marvel movie, so he dramatically throws T'Challa over the waterfall. And you know, I buy that. I buy that Killmonger would do something dramatic like that, and I believe he would believe it was certain death. Everyone else obviously did. In fact, it's probably more fantastic that T'Challa survived than that Killmonger didn't just execute him. So that's good storytelling. Afterwards, in case Okoye's motivation wasn't clear, Nakia shows up and says, "Okay, let's go solve this problem." Okoye says, "What problem?" And Nakia says, "Well, this Wangrod just killed our king and stole his throne." And Okoye points out what we should already know if we've been paying attention. The forms have been obeyed. We might not like the outcome, but we are a nation of laws, and according to the law, this is our new king. So maybe they're not a chaotic society, thanks to people like Okoye. Now we link our little video essay back to Don Kagan's book on the origins of war and the preservation of peace. Kagan does not appear to be a subscriber to the great man theory of history, where the only thing that matters is the story of these important leaders, but neither does he subscribe to the it's complicated theory espoused by political scientists. Kagan argues history isn't only about these great leaders, but it is about people. It's about people like Théophile Delcasse, who just decided it would be better in the long run not to go to war with England. This guy wasn't prime minister or king, he was just a bureaucrat. It's about people like Okoye, who decides to follow the law, support the current king. She is going to act not according to her personal feelings. She would quite evidently rather serve T'Challa, but she puts the country first, and she believes the country would be better if we follow the rules. In fact, It's why we have rules. So the country is not just governed by the strongest person. And man, this dialogue it's ace. Nakia says, well, she chooses her words very poorly, but dramatically. She says, help me overthrow Killmonger. And maybe she had a chance before that. Maybe she could have used a different argument and appealed to Okoye's sense of duty. But she says exactly the wrong thing, and Okoye spits it back in her face. Okoye says, I am not a spy. She's reminding Nakia and us the difference between them. Nakia is a spy. Spies are typically by any means necessary. But Okoye is a warrior, a soldier, and not just a soldier, the head of the Royal Guard. She says, I am loyal to the throne. Yes, because that's great characterization. There are real people like this in the real world. We admire Okoye because she has principles, and it's great drama. Great character development, great drama, A+ writing. Meanwhile, and this is important if not actually relevant to our point, meanwhile, Killmonger makes sure to destroy the plant that gives Black Panther his power. He is an experienced operative. He knows how to destabilize a country. He knows how to consolidate power. He manipulated the traditions of his country to get on the throne, and now that he has it, he destroys the infrastructure that supports those traditions so no one else can ever be king. Classic dictator behavior. Only through me. Only I can save you. Only I know the truth. Listen only to me. Follow only me. Destroy anything that supports the idea that anyone else could ever legitimately be king. When Killmonger ascends the throne and reveals his master plan, he talks about how they're going to go to war, basically take over the world. Killmonger uses this classic revolutionary language, very well reasoned, but I wonder if he believes any of it. Because his ultimate goal is not, I want to free all our brothers and sisters across the world in slavery and poverty. That's just the clever justification he comes up with. He wants to take over the world. Like, let's say you agree with his points about Africans and their descendants being historically oppressed, which you do because it's true. If you agree with that, does this dude seem like he's going to hold elections after the revolution, establish an independent judiciary? No way. He wants Wakanda to rule the world while he rules Wakanda. He is a classic movie villain. He's just updated his language. Ryan Coogler, no one making superhero movies is doing what you're doing. Not even close. So this is important because in this scene, we get a shot of W'Kabi nodding in agreement. Yes, he's saying, this kind of action I can get behind. Why? Are we meant to think W'Kabi is a nationalist? A revolutionary? Nope. He's just the guy in charge of the army. The last dude had no interest in doing anything with it, but this new guy is definitely going to use it, so he likes the new guy. Why is Killmonger king? Because of people like Okoye and W'Kabi. The Royal Guard support him. The military support him. So the country will support him. Yes, ultimate executive power comes from the people, always, in every culture. If literally no one in the country thinks you're the president, then you are not the president. But how do the people evaluate who their executive is? They look to these folks. They look to the folks in charge of the military, the police, the church, the press, the holders of power and tradition. And if those people say you are king, then and only then are you king. The flip side of this is, if these people say, nah, then you are not king. And we got another 45 minutes of movie left to show us that. By the way, I laughed out loud when Killmonger said, the sun will never set on the Wakandan Empire. I think I was the only person in the theater that was laughing. That depressed me. More people should know how brilliant this movie is. Meanwhile, Nakia is just as much a political realist as Killmonger and has spirited away the last Wakandan super soldier plant and plans to give it to M'Baku. Tina Turner says, hang on, is this a good idea? I don't trust that dude a whole lot more than Killmonger. Maybe you should take the herb. Nakia says something brilliant, and once again, the movie doesn't explain it, she just says it. She says, I am a spy without an army. It's because she's a spy that she knows how all this works. She wants to do to Killmonger's new Wakanda what he did to her Wakanda. She needs to challenge its legitimacy, and in order to do that, you need someone like M'Baku, who is not only a tribal leader, which Nakia is not, but also the leader of a pretty dope army of his own. How do you gather and establish executive power? Well, it helps if you have the traditions and the military on your side, and M'Baku has both. This stuff happens in the real world all the time. The people who can remove the old king wait. They don't act immediately. They look around for someone the people will rally to, and this is usually an exile, a popular leader who opposed the government and left before they could be disappeared. They approach this person and say, if we take care of the current problem in the executive, can we count on you? Will you come back? And if you follow real world revolutions, this is something people talk about. When you remove the dictator, who's going to take their place? The military? Well, that's not good news. But if there's some popular leader, someone who could win an election, probably somebody living in exile, then your revolution has a chance because the people will rally to this person. Military leaders are often very charismatic. People admire them, but they rarely make good democratic leaders. There is a lot going on in this movie. Fathers and sons, colonialism. There are many themes and threads running through this film, but above them all is this constant dialogue between all these characters about authority, legitimacy. Who has it? Why? How do you get it? How do you challenge it? Not how do you challenge the person? How do you challenge authority? So Nakia says to M'Baku, hey, you could be king because not only are you the hereditary ruler of one of the tribes, and not only do you have an army, but also I have a super soldier drug. So you could beat Killmonger in the ritual challenge. This is a smart thing to do. We know M'Baku wants to be king, but like so many other people in this movie, he is not just motivated by his own desire for power or his personal feelings about who should be king. Personally, he thinks he would be a better king. But personal is not the same as important. When M'Baku sees the super soldier herb, he stands up. He seems bemused, unsure how to react. And we imagine it's because he's considering the vast scope of what Nakia is suggesting and weighing its moral implications. But that is not what this dude is thinking. He's thinking, poop. I think I got to do the right thing, because he is not a power-hungry warmonger. He is a man of principle. He shows them T'Challa lives. He knows this is the dude who should eat the herb. Why? Well, we don't know, but I suspect it's because T'Challa beat him in the challenge. In other words, he is a true Wakandan. This stuff isn't all for show. He believes it. This guy beat me without the herb. He should be king. Give the herb to him. I love that this movie leaves it to us to understand these things without explaining everything all the time. Again, where does executive power come from? People like M'Baku. So they give T'Challa the herb, and he gets to hang out with his ancestors for a little while. And in another brilliant, really surprising turn, he basically agrees with Killmonger. Killmonger says it was always wrong for us to hide, not use our technology. So let's take over the world. T'Challa says, well, I don't know about the take over the world stuff. That sounds like you're actually literally insane. But yeah, as a matter of fact, I think it was always wrong for us to hide. Look what that did. It produced Killmonger. Killmonger is an externalization of Wakandan foreign policy. This realization, this growth, is how T'Challa earns the right to be king again. He's going to come out of this whole experience not just a great warrior, but a wise leader with a new vision for Wakanda that all these other people will be able to get behind. In other words, he's not going to say, hey, follow me because I'm not a sociopath or because I'm authentically the king. He is actually developing a better idea than anyone else has, and that idea is going to inspire everyone. Let's announce who we are and use all this power to help people. That is a good idea, and it helps that he's not a sociopath. M'Baku says, well, good luck with that, but you're on your own. And this is mostly about creating drama, right? Achilles in his tent. We need to see this dude swoop in at the absolute last moment. So until then, go fish. When T'Challa shows up, reveals to Killmonger and everyone else that he is still alive, what does he say? He doesn't say, I'm here to kill you, little Bill. He says, I never yielded. You didn't kill me. I never yielded. Therefore, the challenge continues. The forms have not been obeyed. And here we see Killmonger's true character. Like when he killed his partner just for a shot at Claw, like when he destroyed the heart-shaped herb, he doesn't care about traditions or rules or people. He only cares about power. He says, none of that stuff matters anymore. Why? Why does he say that? Because he thinks he has successfully consolidated power. If I can get enough of the right people to say the votes don't count, then it doesn't matter how the press calls the election. It doesn't matter what the electors say. None of that matters if I have successfully subverted the right people. But Killmonger made a mistake. After Okoye and W'Kabi agreed to support him publicly, he should have had them killed. They have authority that people recognize. Better get rid of them. Ideally, Killmonger would have chosen someone in the Royal Guard, in the military, and instructed them to kill Okoye and W'Kabi, promising to promote these murderers into their place afterwards. Then, these new leaders don't just owe their position to Killmonger, they have blood on their hands. They would be locked into the conspiracy. If they ever thought about being disloyal, Killmonger could reveal what they did, destroying them and maintaining power. But, alas, Killmonger hadn't watched this video, and he left Okoye and W'Kabi alive, which means now there is a succession crisis. When Killmonger says none of that challenge stuff matters anymore, he's wrong, because the people it matters to are still alive. Killmonger orders the head of the military to kill T'Challa, and Okoye, still bound by duty, reminds W'Kabi of his duty. The challenge is not complete. And just like one of Okoye's lieutenants asked earlier, can nothing be done? Now one of W'Kabi's lieutenants turns to him and says, what will we do? This movie is about the origins of executive power. It is showing us these people, Okoye, W'Kabi, later M'Baku. They decide who is king. Killmonger's authority comes from them. Because this is a movie, we get a lot of internecine fighting, which is necessary for the drama, but also pretty realistic. Stuff like this, the military versus the royal guard, really happens all the time in history. In the end, it comes down to W'Kabi. When Okoye says she absolutely will kill him to preserve Wakanda, he surrenders. He wanted to use his army, and he got to. But he looks around and he sees all he did was create more strife because he used it against Wakanda. He never says it, but I think we're meant to understand this is the moment when he realizes maybe it should be might for right instead of might is right. Black Panther is brilliant because in an era where big summer blockbusters have to appeal to these vast foreign markets with different cultures and different values than ours, movies tend to focus on family as the only virtue worth fighting for. Black Panther not only allows its heroes and villains to have actual points of view, it shows off some classic American hero nonsense, the kind of nonsense I grew up with. The fantasy of being magnanimous in victory. Total Captain Kirk stuff. There was a moment at the end where I really believed T'Challa would find a way to bridge the gulf between them and begin to rehabilitate Killmonger. I thought that was going to happen, but that would not have been true to Killmonger's character. If he can be converted, then the hate and pain that motivated him wasn't everything. And we know it's everything. It's all he has. T'Challa makes the offer, but Killmonger rejects it. Quite poetically, I thought. Because he can only see the world in terms of masters and slaves. That was his whole plan with Wakanda, be the masters. So he interprets T'Challa's offer as just a chance to be someone else's slave, and he kills himself. T'Challa is king because he sees a better way. I hope I have not let my obvious and unalloyed admiration for this movie get in the way of my point, which is it is a great example for us as world builders of how to structure our medieval society so that we can have these complex political dramas. We need to know, where does power come from? Why do people do what the king says? Because of people like Okoye, W'Kabi, Zuri, and M'Baku. Who is the head of the royal guard? The military. Who's the head of the church? If there is a crisis, to whom will the people turn? Who else has legitimacy that could be co-opted, subverted, or even pressed into service? If you know the answers to these questions, then you are ready for some real drama. I once said that bards in Vasloria, my medieval European analog, certify the law. People imagined I was talking about like a class feature or some homebrew rule, and they asked me how it worked. But it doesn't have anything to do with game mechanics. It's about culture. Because the press, in this case the bards, are part of that authority that certifies executive power. How do the people know what the king said? Because the bards told them. What if they told the people something else? How do the people know what God wants? Because the church tells them. What if they said God would be happier with a different king? That's it, folks. When I first started this channel, I used my campaign as a running example, and folks said, how do you do that? How do you build such a politically complex world? And I took the question seriously. But I didn't know how to answer that question without teaching you how I think. Over the course of these 5 videos, I've tried to give you all the tools I use. We talked about the central tension, the axis around which your political narrative will rotate. We talked about diplomacy, about realpolitik, and how actual nations gather power, keep power, and deny it to others. We talked about peace, about how hard it is to establish and keep. We talked about war, how it happens, and why. Finally, we talked about where executive power comes from. Why do people listen to the king? Put these together and you will have a politically sophisticated, complex world that will impress your players. Thanks for watching, everybody. I know we've been in sort of run silent, run deep mode, but this is mostly because of the global pandemic and the fact that I have to finish the core design of Kingdoms and Warfare, and the Chain of Acheron will return. In fact, I am planning on running each player through a solo adventure while we wait for things to get to the point where all the players feel safe being in the same room together. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, please come by our Discord. It's one of the largest tabletop RPG Discords out there, and thanks to the tireless work of our mod team, the community is friendly and respectful. Also, by the way, Adventure Lookup got a major update. If you don't know what this is, it is a website we host that is community developed. The idea is companies have been making high quality adventures for D&D for almost 50 years. Probably whatever adventure you're planning, someone has already published something similar that could save you a lot of time. This is just a catalog. No adventures are hosted here, but where possible, there are links to online stores where you can buy the adventure. You can filter by almost anything, including level, edition, publisher, even stuff like monsters. Maybe you're looking for an adventure featuring a Lich, or Vecna, or a specific magic item like the Infernal Machine of Lum the Mad. Not only did they update the visual design of the site, you can now write reviews and give adventures a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So you can filter and then sort by popularity, which is hugely useful. So please check it out. It is pretty amazing. I get folks on Twitter telling me it has helped them all the time. Finally, as is tradition, we will do a live hangout here on YouTube this Friday, July 24th at 11 a.m. We can talk about this video, the politics series, or anything else you're interested in. If you want to support the channel, we have a Patreon, which we are developing some exclusive content for. Stay tuned for a full announcement, probably in like 6 weeks, maybe sooner. You can also pre-order Kingdoms and Warfare or any of the incredibly dope minis we're working on. We might do a whole video just on one of these. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you're well. Make sure you wear a mask if you go out. Wash your hands when you get inside. See you Friday. Until then, peace out.